What's the best fantasy card game on mobile? It's a ridiculously saturated genre, and you've got an avalanche of choices whenever you pick up your device and open the App Store. So we went off into the wilds of the internet, did some research, and this is what we came up with. Now, it's not a definitive list, this is just stuff that we particularly like, and importantly, stuff that we think has been best tailored to a touchscreen device. Yes, Magic the Gathering is a classic, but is the mobile version the best way to play it? We're not 100% convinced. Here are some alternatives if you fancy walking off the beaten path. Card Quest wears its digital-first colours on its sleeve. It's gorgeous in a completely different way, with each card and character presented in big, chunky pixels. But there's a wonderful depth all the same, and you always feel like you're unlocking something new. Whether that's new enemies or a new deck to play with, the game's always ready with your next treat. There's no multiplayer, but to be honest, the game doesn't need it. It's a dungeon crawling RPG. It just happens that the dungeon you're crawling through is made out of cards. And every time you venture out into the dark, you'll learn a little more, earn a little more, and see more of the horrors the world has to offer. Pathfinder Adventures, Rise of the Runelords, takes the shape of the hardcore tabletop RPG, then places it into a single-player system where the bad guys are controlled by cards. It's smart, and it works really well. This is a game driven by its narrative, but also adds strategic depth to all the decisions that you make. Pick a couple of characters, grab a deck of skills and equipment cards, and then head off into different locations, smashing up monsters as you go. It's based on a tabletop system, but this is a really decent digital port that frees players from the fiddly overhead, leaving them to admire the clever mechanics and addictive gameplay instead. Another digital-only game and another solo adventure. This time though, things aren't as deep. In Meteorfall Journey, you're making your way through short, sharp scraps, doing your very best to stop the titular meteor from smashing into the world. Don't let the lack of depth push you away though. This is precisely the sort of game you want to play on your mobile in short sessions. It's the fantasy card game done with the portable touchscreen crowd in mind, and it works brilliantly. Pick one of 4 different adventurers and then fight through what is essentially a quest deck, featuring monsters, events, and various looting possibilities. You don't even have to fight all the monsters you come up against, dismissing them with a Tinder-style swipe to the left. But do this too much, and you'll be useless by the time you get to the end game. There's been a bunch of updates since the game came out as well, and each of them has been kind of great. Sometimes you don't want card games to take over your entire life. Sometimes you want Meteorfall Journey. Now, this is a slightly off-kilter choice, but bear with us. It's not a traditional fantasy game, but sometimes you need to abandon tradition if you want to grow. The reason we stuck the Dresden Files cooperative card game on the list is because of that cooperative bit. This is not a game to pick up if you don't have any friends to play with. But if you do, it's a whole different ballgame. You take control of a team of detectives trying to solve cases. If you're playing on your own, then you're in control of all of them. But if you play with other people, you get one detective each. It's an unusual game, one that plays around not just with the shape of card games in general, but also the stories of the books this game's based on. Play it as a solitaire game, and some of the excitement doesn't quite manage to shine through. But get some friends involved, get your sleuthing hats on, and this is one of the most entertaining board game adaptations the App Store has to offer. And yes, of course, you can't make a list of fantasy card games without including Hearthstone. It might not be the first game to do collectible card battling on digital, but it's far and away the most popular and one of the strongest of the bunch. With all of the updates, there's a thick and chunky single-player mode, and plenty of different multiplayer options to keep you interested. Plus, it's all presented with that traditional Blizzard sheen. It's the sort of game that probably will eat up a lot of your free time, and a good chunk of your not free time if you let it. It demands time and patience. It's hard to resist spending real money to ease your path into power. There's real strategy in your deck building and tactics in the field of play. But nothing on its own is overwhelming. The game uses just enough interlocking parts to build something astonishingly rich and deep in terms of strategy, but not so much that it risks confusing newcomers. It's a compelling distillation of everything that's great and good in collectible card gaming, brought to your touchscreen for free in a way that doesn't suck. and that is no small achievement.